Hi everyone, Kevin here. Today we are going to look at how you can use DaVinci Resolve 18. This is the latest and greatest version of the software. And joining me today, we have a very special guest, and he also happens to be one of my favorite YouTubers, Casey Ferris.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me. This is an honor to be on your channel. Very excited to kind of dive into things here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And if you haven't heard of Casey Ferris before, he runs a YouTube channel that's dedicated to DaVinci Resolve, so it's a fantastic resource to learn more. You can get to his channel with the card up above, and I've also included a link down below in the description. Casey also has a course on DaVinci Resolve that goes even deeper than this video will today, so also worth checking out, and for that too, you'll find a link down below in the description. In this video today, Casey and we're going to assume that you have no background at all in DaVinci Resolve. We're going to start with the absolute basics of how you even get DaVinci Resolve. And then we'll look at how you can import media into DaVinci Resolve, how you can start telling your story on the timeline, and at the end, we'll look at how you could render your video so you could get it out to, say, YouTube or Facebook or any other video service. So basically, by the end of this video, you'll have a really good sense for how you can use DaVinci Resolve. If you'd like to follow along today, we've also included some sample files down below in the description, so you could access those and you could do exactly what we're doing today. So Casey, how do we even get DaVinci Resolve? Where do we go to get this software, this free video editing software?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. Just go to blackmagicdesign.com and somewhere it should say DaVinci Resolve 18. You can click on that and we can click on this free download now button. And then what happens is you get to choose your version of Resolve. So there's Resolve 18 at this point, and it's in beta. There's also Resolve 17. I would recommend just getting Resolve 18 because it's a really solid build and has all the newest features and really good.
I always like going with beta. You always get the latest and greatest. So you sold me on that.
Yeah.
And then I see something called Studio and something without Studio. What's the difference between those two?
Yeah, so there's the standard version of Resolve, which is free and can do basically everything that you'd want to do when it comes to video editing, especially if you're just starting out. And then there's also the Studio version, which is about $300, and that is just a one-time fee. You can render over 4K. And there's, kind of some fancy things that probably not everybody needs, especially if you're just starting out. I would recommend with just going with the free version. So we click this, download it, and install it. And then when you open Resolve for the first time, it should look something like this. Now this window here is called your project manager. This is where you open and save new projects, where you can kind of import, export things. It's kind of all of your projects are all in this window. So, what I like to do is just go down and click on New Project, and it'll ask for a name. We'll say Kevin Cookie Company.
And Casey, I've got to say, I'm looking forward to seeing your take on this classic commercial for the Kevin Cookie Company. I could really use a professional to help pull this together. And, and once again, if you want to follow along, you'll find the sample files in the description down below. So you'll have all the same files that we're working with here.
So I was doing a little practice earlier, so we'll just say V2, and then we jump right into the edit page of Resolve. So you should be looking at something that looks kind of like this. And really how Resolve is structured is there are a few different kind of modes that Resolve has. Resolve is designed to pretty much do everything that you need to do after you're done shooting. So from managing and organizing your files to editing to color correction all the way to your final render. And really you can kind of switch Resolve into different focuses. And you do that by clicking these buttons down here, which will switch to different pages. I'm going to bring up some media here so that makes a little bit more sense. This first page is called the edit page. This is where you do your editing. This is actually where you take your media and put it together as a story. But we also have several different pages here, including a color correction page, which is designed just to do really fancy color correction and adjust your images. We have the fusion page, which is made for effects and graphics and all kinds of fancy things, compositing, explosions, all the things that you would ever want to do in your movie. We have a Fairlight page, which is how to get really detailed with your audio. And you can run all kinds of plugins and audio filters and anything that you would want when it comes to mixing your audio. And then we have a dedicated deliver page, which lets you render for all kinds of different outputs. You can make your movies for Netflix or for YouTube or to keep on your computer. And it's a really, really versatile kind of space for that. So really, we can do everything that we need to do in our project all within Resolve. And we just got to kind of switch it to these different modes, different things to focus on when it comes to post-production.
So Casey, it's awesome to see that DaVinci Resolve can do so much, but let's imagine that I'm coming in here for the first time and I have no idea. I've never used it before. I have no idea to start. What do I do to get started?
Sure. Well, let me open up a new project here. And really the very first thing that you need to do if you want to edit a video is import some media. Now, in the upper left-hand corner here, we have our media pool. And that's this kind of section right here. And if you're editing a video, you can kind of think of it like cooking something, right? And if you want to cook anything, you have to have ingredients. And the media pool is kind of like your fridge or your cabinet. It's kind of where all the ingredients live before you actually do anything with them. So the first thing we need to do is actually bring in some ingredients.
And Casey, when you say media, this is stuff like you could have a video file, say an audio file. You could even have, let's say, a JPEG or a PNG. Like basically any type of media can go in here.
Yeah, pretty much anything that you could possibly add to a video, whether it's a still, whether it's video, whether it's music or audio, anything like that, that's considered media. So here in the edit page, let's go to the media pool, and I'm just going to right click anywhere here in this blank space and go down to import media. And now I'll navigate to wherever all of my media is. Here I have some video files and a piece of music. And we'll go ahead and hit open. Then it's going to pop up with this little dialog, and it's going to ask if we want to change our frame rate.
And Casey, I will say the first time I saw this message, it definitely scared me when I saw this.
Yeah, it kind of seems like one of those, it kind of seems like this life or death decision. Like, are you sure you want to change this really intimidating thing? All it's really saying is, hey, you shot your videos at a certain speed, right? So a video is really multiple pictures per second, right? A lot of videos, 30 frames a second. Some is 24, some is more. But generally, whatever you're shooting, that's usually what you'll want to edit at. And so it's just saying, hey, do you want to change your project to be the same frame rate as this footage that you just brought in? All right, so let's go ahead and hit change. And now our project is set up and we have our media here in our media pool.
And Casey, can I also, could I just drag and drop files in there too? Let's say
Absolutely.
I have File Explorer. Okay. So other ways to get stuff in there as well.
Yep. Yeah. You can just grab something from your Explorer window like this and just drag it in, and that's no problem. So one thing I'm going to do is go up to my workspace here, and I'm going to reset our layout just so that everybody is seeing the exact same thing as me. And by default, there are two viewers here. There's one screen here on the left and one on the right. Now, if I double click on a piece of media here in the media pool, that loads it into this left viewer, which is called the source viewer. Really what this is like picking up a ingredient from your fridge and looking at it, right? This is kind of taking a piece of media and letting you kind of scrub through it and figure out what it is, decide if you like it or not. So this is a great way to preview the media that's in your media pool. And you can also kind of get it ready to drag into the timeline.
And Casey, one question before we start editing these different video files. So I know a lot of people who will end up watching this video, maybe their system isn't quite as performant, or maybe they have an older machine, and they'll notice that DaVinci Resolve might lag a little bit. So when you try to play a media file in the source viewer, you might get a little bit of lag. Is there any way that you can kind of adjust the clip to make it play better?
Yeah, generally it depends on the kind of footage you're shooting. So if you're shooting with a big professional camera, that usually takes a little bit more horsepower under the hood for your computer. If you're shooting with something like your phone, it's